In 2021, in the quiet suburbs of Minneapolis, a woman named Amina Yusuf received a letter that would change her life. She was the executive director of a small nonprofit that provided meals to low-income families. Her pride, her legacy, something she built from scratch. But the letter wasn't a thank you note or a donation. It was a subpoena. The FBI wanted Amina's financial records. She was stunned. Her organization, like hundreds of others, had been swept up into what would become one of the largest alleged fraud scandals in Minnesota's history, one that would eventually reveal over $250 million in stolen funds, implicate politicians, and unravel the trust of an entire state. It all started with one question: how could so much money meant for hungry children simply disappear? You think you understand how government aid works, that the checks and balances protect you, your tax dollars, your community. But what I discovered, digging through court documents, interviewing whistleblowers, and tracking money trails, will change how you see the entire system. Because if you pay taxes, if you donate to charities, or if you've ever trusted that government oversight would protect the vulnerable, what happened in Minnesota could affect you, too. The deeper I looked, the more I realized, this isn't just a story about a few bad apples. It's about an entire system, one that is supposed to safeguard billions, but is, in reality, shockingly easy to exploit. And it started long before Amina ever opened that letter. Let's go back to 2020. The world is in chaos. COVID-19 triggers one of the largest economic crises in American history. Millions of people suddenly need food. The federal government responds with a massive expansion of programs like the Child Nutrition Program, money funneled through the USDA, then filtered down to state agencies, and finally, to local nonprofits and businesses. In Minnesota alone, over $1 billion in federal pandemic aid is set aside for organizations feeding children. It sounds like a miracle. It's supposed to be. But as the money pours in, something strange starts to happen. Small nonprofits, some created only months earlier, begin receiving grants worth millions. A convenience store in St. Paul, previously struggling to keep the lights on, suddenly reports serving tens of thousands of free meals a week. The numbers seem off. In some cases, a single location claims to have fed more children in a month than actually live in the entire neighborhood, but nobody seems to notice. The state agency in charge, the Minnesota Department of Education, is overwhelmed. They're processing hundreds of new applications, some with barely any documentation. Inspections are rare. In-person audits are impossible due to the pandemic. So run for nearly 2 years, hundreds of millions of dollars flow with little more than a digital signature. Why did this happen? Was it incompetence or something more sinister? In February 2022, the FBI raids more than a dozen properties across Minnesota. The scene is surreal. FBI jackets, battering rams, boxes of evidence carted out of strip malls and suburban homes. The target, an organization called Feeding Our Future. On paper, Feeding Our Future is a food aid nonprofit. In reality, prosecutors allege it was the hub of a sprawling fraud operation. According to federal affidavits, the group funneled at least $250 million in government funds through shell companies, fake food distribution sites, and a web of complicit businesses. The numbers are staggering. According to investigators, some sites reported feeding as many as 6,000 children per day, out of storefronts the size of a coffee shop. Landlords were paid six-figure rents for empty buildings, luxury cars, million-dollar homes, and even overseas real estate were purchased with the proceeds. One defendant, prosecutors say, used the money to buy property in Kenya. Another allegedly spent $2.8 million on real estate in Minnesota alone. Pattern interrupt. But it wasn't just the money. It was the psychology, the sense of invincibility, the belief that nobody was watching, that the system was too overwhelmed to ever catch up. I spoke with M, a former program coordinator who worked at one of the implicated nonprofits. He described the pressure, the whispered promises, the easy money. At first, it was just paperwork. You fill out the forms, estimate the number of meals. Nobody checks. They just deposit the money. But soon it got bigger. People started bragging about what they were buying. A new Benz, a house for your mother back home. You'd be stupid not to take it. But how did it get this far? How could hundreds of people across dozens of organizations coordinate a fraud of this size without anyone sounding the alarm? That's where the real scandal lies. Because this wasn't just greed. It was a system designed, whether by accident or intent, to ignore warning signs. Let me walk you through the mechanics. First, the Minnesota Department of Education. Every year, they're responsible for distributing hundreds of millions in federal nutrition dollars. The process is supposed to be rigorous: background checks, site inspections, audits. But when the pandemic hit, all those safeguards evaporated. The USDA urged states to get money out the door. Site visits became phone calls. Background checks were waived. Applications were rubber-stamped. Second, the reporting system. Nonprofits and businesses had to submit numbers: how many meals served, how many children fed. But there was no real-time verification. No way to check if the meals actually existed. In one example, a group reported serving 5 meals a day out of a 2-bedroom apartment. Nobody visited, nobody counted. The only thing needed? A spreadsheet, pattern interrupt. Imagine if your bank just accepted any deposit, no questions asked, no matter how absurd the numbers looked. That's what happened, on a billion-dollar scale. Third, the middlemen. Feeding Our Future wasn't the only sponsor. They were the biggest. But dozens of similar organizations acted as intermediaries between the state and the local meal sites. Each took a cut, sometimes 10%, sometimes more. The more sites they signed up, the more money they made. So the incentive wasn't to find legitimate partners. It was to sign up as many as possible, as quickly as possible. Fourth, political cover. Whistleblowers inside the Department of Education tried to slow down the flow of cash. They flagged suspicious sites. In one leaked email, an employee writes, "These numbers don't add up." But higher-ups, pressured by political leaders and lobbyists, kept approving grants. The fear? That cracking down would look like discrimination, since many of the sites served immigrant communities. So the money kept flowing. By the time the FBI moved in, over $250 million had been siphoned off. The fallout was immediate. Dozens of indictments, national headlines. Minnesota became a byword for government waste. But here's the thing. The scandal didn't start in 2021 or 2020. The roots go back decades to the very structure of American aid programs. Pattern interrupt. You think you're protected by oversight, by audits, by the watchful eye of government agencies. But the truth is, these systems are built on trust. Trust that, when broken, is almost impossible to repair. Let's go back to 2010. After the Great Recession, Congress expanded nutrition programs nationwide. Billions flowed to states with little increase in oversight. The logic was simple. When people are hungry, you feed them first and ask questions later. But as the programs grew, so did opportunities for fraud. In 2014, a similar, though smaller, scandal erupted in Texas. Nonprofits inflated meal numbers, pocketed the cash, and vanished before anyone could recover the money. In 2016, California discovered $30 million in fraudulent claims. Each time the response was the same. This is a one-off, an isolated case. But the system never fundamentally changed. Pattern interrupt. How many times does something have to happen before it's not an accident, but a feature? I tracked down court records, interview transcripts, and public statements. Again and again, the same story. Overwhelmed agencies, easy money, and a lack of meaningful oversight. In Minnesota, a single auditor was tasked with reviewing over $300 million in grants. One person, hundreds of organizations. It's easy to blame the fraudsters. But what about the system that handed them the keys? I sat down with Dr. Karen Mills, a professor of public administration at the University of Minnesota. She studied government fraud for over 20 years. Her verdict? These programs are designed for speed, not security. When the pressure is on, and in a crisis, it always is, oversight is the first thing to go. And that's the psychological trap. Because we want to believe that the system works, that checks and balances are real, that your tax dollars are safe. But the more I investigated, the clearer it became. This belief is not just wrong, it's dangerous. You think you're protected, but you're not. You think this couldn't happen in your city, your state, your country, but it already has. Let's come back to the individual stories. Because behind every line in a spreadsheet, every dollar stolen, there's a real person, someone who thought they were doing the right thing. Amina Yusuf, the nonprofit director, spent months under investigation before she was cleared. Her organization, like many others, was caught in the crossfire, grants frozen, reputation destroyed, and families left without food. We followed every rule, she told me, but the system was so chaotic, nobody could tell what was real and what was fake. Then there's Jamal Aden, a Somali-American entrepreneur who ran a grocery in Minneapolis. He was approached by a local nonprofit, promised $100 to serve as a meal site. It sounded too good to be true, he recalled. He declined. Months later, he watched as other stores on his block received new cars and expanded operations, while he struggled to pay rent. Pattern interrupt. Not everyone joined in, but those who didn't were left behind, economically and sometimes even targeted with threats or ostracization. The psychological manipulation was subtle, but devastating. For many in immigrant communities, participation was framed as a community benefit, a way to give back, share in prosperity, support your own. But behind the rhetoric was an ironclad rule. Don't ask questions, just sign the papers. And then there's the wider cost, the damage to trust. In the wake of the scandal, legitimate nonprofits have seen donations dry up. Parents, once eager to sign up for meal programs, now hesitate. If this much money can be stolen, one parent asked me, how can I trust anyone? Let's talk numbers. According to the U.S. Department of Justice, fraudulent claims in nutrition programs nationwide now exceed $1 billion a year. In Minnesota, $250 million was lost in just 18 months. That's enough to feed every child in the state for a year, with money left over. And it's not just food aid. Medicaid, unemployment insurance, pandemic loans. The same pattern repeats. Whenever there's a crisis and new money floods in, the guardrails vanish. Pattern interrupt. What does this mean for you? If you pay taxes, if you depend on government aid, if you give to charity, every dollar lost to fraud is a dollar that doesn't reach those who actually need it. So who's to blame? The easy answer is the fraudsters. The men and women who bought luxury cars with stolen money, who lied on forms and deceived the government. And yes, they bear responsibility. But the system enabled them. The lack of oversight, the pressure to spend quickly, the absence of real accountability, all of these made the fraud possible. I want to share something that really stuck with me. In one wiretap transcript, a suspect laughed about how easy it was. They never check. They just want paperwork. You can put anything and they'll pay. Think about that for a second. Imagine if every financial institution worked that way. If your bank just handed out cash to anyone with a plausible story, how long would it take for the whole system to collapse? Pattern interrupt. This isn't just a Minnesota problem. It's a problem endemic to every system where oversight is sacrificed for speed. So now, the revelation, the truth nobody wants to talk about. The greatest threat to your money isn't always a scammer in a dark alley or a hacker on the other side of the world. Sometimes it's the institutions you trust, the ones that are supposed to safeguard your money, your community, your future. Systems built on trust, without the safeguards to back it up. And when that trust is broken, the consequences ripple outwards. Lost money, yes, but also lost opportunities, lost faith, lost lives. But here's the harshest reality. If you think this couldn't happen to you, you're wrong. These systems are everywhere, quietly, invisibly shaping where your money goes and how much of it is lost along the way. So what can you do? Here's what you need to do tomorrow morning. First, if you donate to charity, demand transparency. Ask for audited statements. Look for organizations that publish detailed reports, not just glossy brochures. If a nonprofit can't tell you exactly where the money goes, walk away. Second, if you rely on government aid, know your rights. Be wary of organizations that promise more than they can deliver. If something sounds too good to be true, like a convenience store offering free food for every child in town, it probably is. Third, if you care about how your tax dollars are spent, get involved. Attend local government meetings, ask questions, demand that your representatives fund real oversight, not just more spending. Fourth, and this is the hardest, challenge your own assumptions. It's easy to believe that the system works, that someone else is watching the store. But as we've seen, that's not always true. The only way to protect yourself and your community is to be vigilant, to ask the uncomfortable questions. Let me leave you with this. In 5 years, the next crisis will come. It might be another pandemic, a natural disaster, or something entirely unexpected. When it does, the same systems will be tested. The same incentives will exist, the same risks. But if you take action now, if you demand transparency, accountability, and real oversight, you can help change the system before the next scandal breaks. You can protect your money, your community, your trust. If you found this investigation eye-opening, subscribe to Mind Over Money for more deep dives into the hidden truths shaping your financial future. Like the video so others can see how easy it is for billions to slip through the cracks and what we can all do about it. Because the only thing more dangerous than a system built on trust is one that's never held accountable. And next time, it could be your money on the line.